Hello again, tank students. And you are on our channel Blitz Moments. Today we will analyze such a mode as burning games. Like any mode, survival has its pros and cons, respectively. And as you probably remember from my tutorial All Basics video, all modes give out more silver and experience after a victory. Another good thing about the modes is that they don't affect the percentage of victories or the number of battles. However, there is also a big disadvantage. You can't earn medals in the modes by type, Master, Kolobanov, Pool. Let's not drag out the lyrics, but move on to the analysis of the battles. And the first example is the battle on the E100. And as you can see here, each player has 2 lives, which are there for a reason. Now let's analyze the victory scale. First of all, the team's life rate has been doubled, which is logical. But below the scale, a new mark appears. We will call it a small flame. And it is here for a reason too. The thing is, as you saw, as soon as it is filled, the strength of all tanks is subtracted by the amount depending on the percentage that is next to the flame. Each team has its own flame, and the value next to it can change during the game. In this case, the percentage can be reduced by capturing points. By the way, the capture of each of the points restores 10% of the strength of all allies, and also brings victory points by standard. Also, don't forget about the standard tips on battle tactics. And I would also like to thank the player brother of Slayer for recording the material for our video. And here you can see another special mechanic. Each penetration of the enemy restores your strength by 60% of the damage from the shot. You can also restore the strength of your teammates with your shots, in which case the shell will restore most of the theoretical damage. Another question that might arise is what happens if the enemy does not hit you and you do not restore your strength. Nothing too critical will happen, but over time, the strength of your tank will drop to 1, and then it will remain so until you are finished or until you restore some of your strength. There is one more point, but we will talk about it a little later. And here you can see the following. When a tank dies, it explodes, dealing damage to the enemies around it equal to a certain percentage of the tank's strength. Therefore, I do not advise you to kill enemies near you or allies, especially when you have little strength left. One more thing about low strength. When you have less than 150 points left, I advise you to beware of your opponents, because there is one good tactic, and you should take note of it. High explosive shells do not penetrate everywhere, but there are places, yellow zones, where they do incomplete damage when they hit. That's why even if you have very strong armor, you can be hit by a high explosive shell in the yellow zone. And then there was a mistake on the part of our player, because he went sideways to FV215/183B. Also, in this mode, you may encounter friendly allies who will heal you if necessary. Realizing the complexity of the situation, Brother of Slayer decided to change his position. But he didn't notice that his team had already collected the maximum points of victory. So our hero didn't die once, because skill plays its part. Now let's look at an example of a battle on STB1. All the starting positions are the same, but this time the game is not without points, but with a base for grabbing. Therefore, the percentage of flames is stable for both teams. At first, everything goes as usual. Don't forget about the tactics of hiding. Although the player felt brave and went on, because he thought there were no opponents here. And that was his mistake. Spoiler: Brother of Slayer won't be able to get out of this situation, and we will follow how one wrong action can lead to the destruction of the machine. Yes, he is a skilled man, but there are situations that do not forgive mistakes. And if he hadn't had help at this stage, he wouldn't have been able to make the right turn. Only now he decided to use the cover. But this is also a mistake. Why? You will see in a moment. And here's why. And now another mechanic of this mode comes into play. After the first death, your recharge is reduced, and, as logical as it sounds, your damage is increased. All other tank stats remain unchanged. And now a joke. Imagine the crew of AT-95 that has its reload time reduced to 7 seconds, and its damage increased from 600 to 700 units. Side note, this is a level 9 vehicle with 305 millimeters of armor in its forehead. Meanwhile, our cameraman managed to change flank and start working from there. And the mechanics of explosions work in all their glory. Here, I'm just offering to watch the fight and skip to the next mistake. And here is the mistake for which I said that you should try not to kill your enemies near you. Despite all the mistakes, the team still won. I propose to watch a battle on a tank of the LT class, BC-25T. Let me remind you that all classic combat tactics work in this mode as well. And our player decided to start the battle from a sniper position. And he does it well. But the fight starts very well, and Brother of Slayer makes no mistakes. And then there will be the first mistake of the fight, finishing off this KPZ. However, the battle still turns out to be a masterpiece. Mastery. The team won in points. And I have some small wisdom for you. As this player's teacher used to say, you were not useless in battle if you did at least a little damage to the opposing team. Before we look at the last example of a point Sao battle, I would like to ask you to make sure that you are subscribed to our channel. If not, I'd love it if you could subscribe, give us a bell, and like this video. Thank you so much. And now let's continue by looking at an example of combat on FV215/183B. For some unknown reason, Jagdpanzer E-100 tried to play as if he were in a platoon with Brother of Slayer. Since the Babaka is a tank without much armor or strength, it is often the main target of enemies. But our warrior is determined to live a second life, and is going to fight to the last. With increased damage, the Babacha's premium landmines, which have increased armor penetration, become the nightmare of enemies. Meanwhile, our team is doing poorly. How will they try to take us out? Let's see. And here's the moment when the teams compared their scores. Almost. It would have been possible to take advantage of this situation if not for the opponent's points. And so everyone on the team did a great job, even though we lost in the end. Here we have analyzed the survival mode. See you soon, tankers. Do not switch. Thank you all for watching.